scale of the tragedy. You look at the size of these huge rocks that roll down the mountainside, and you think of innocent people sleeping in their beds at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. being assaulted by these huge rocks, and you imagine they must have been pulverized and shattered. Just coming here and seeing the scale of what has happened is deeply painful. And then even just watching the JCBs moving these bits of rock and so on to try and find bodies underneath. You realize that each slab of masonry they're moving represents the shattered dreams and hopes of families. It's a very painful experience. And I must say that my heart goes out, of course, to all the people and their families, those who've lost their lives and worse. But the workers, the rescuers, everyone who has come to open their hearts and their hands to help, my prayers and thanks to all of them. I think it's increasingly unlikely now we'll find anyone alive, but 300 people's lives have been lost. There's still 200 supposed to be missing. And that would make it the worst tragedy, recorded tragedy in Kerala's history, because 483 were the number of lives lost in the Kerala floods of 2018. So this is the sadly likely to perhaps cross that total. It's a day of great pain and mourning for all of us. So there are a number of things that we have to do. First is relief that is happening. It's happening well. There's some kinds of supplies are needed. I myself brought a couple of lorry loads from Thiruvananthapuram of things that particularly wanted. For example, people sleeping on the floor need some soft mattresses, bedrolls, that sort of thing. We got those to help with. But food and so on is adequately supplied here, and people are all right in terms of food supplies. But that immediate basic relief is not enough. We have to move to the rehabilitation stage. There are, sadly, the relief camps are largely in schools, and the schools have to reopen so those children who can go into school can resume their normal lives. And for that, we need to therefore rent or build rent homes and hostels and so on, and move these families out, and they need help then to resume their lives. Then you have the longer-term rehabilitation. As Rahul Gandhi ji spoke about building 100+ homes from our side, and there'll be others also. There'll be a lot of home building required. Even in Thiruvananthapuram, a lady came and offered me some land for anybody who wants to relocate there. But the question is, if they relocate there, what are they going to do for a living? And that's the larger question, not just lives, but livelihoods. People who have lost their sources of livelihood and income here, where will they go and what will they do in their new lives? Then there is the psychological trauma, which must be terrible. You can imagine, especially where some members of a family have perished and some have survived. The survivors must be feeling such anguish on a daily basis. Psychological counseling, psychosocial services will be required. And then there is a larger conversation to be had about what we do in the future, because there are now media reports that the central government wants to come up with a declaration of about 10,000 square kilometers in Kerala and the Western Ghats as ecologically sensitive areas. They're giving people 60 days to comment. And I think it's important to realize that people are stakeholders in this, because balancing the needs of the environment with the needs of human beings to live, whether we call it development, we call it livelihood, this is also something that's extremely important, and people's views must be taken into account. In the face of a tragedy like this, these are some of the issues that come to our minds. Obviously, the state government must take the lead in making these efforts, but everyone is chipping in, and everyone should be encouraged to help in every way possible. That's
What are the lessons that we are learning from this tragedy?
I think we should let the experts do a decent analysis and come up with lessons.